Hey everybody, it's Summer Camp Steve from Bullskit Productions. I would like to just take this moment to thank you for everything you've done, just in your life in general, but also within the support for Nursery. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for listening. I'm so glad that you're here and spending your time with us. I'm pretty sure, I'm almost positive, you've made the right choice. You're listening to Nursery Podcast, Ohio's creative voice.
Hi there, this is Zoe Nightingale, and you're listening to Nursery, a podcast from Ohio's creative voice.
The nursery and all of the trees cross over the dark, and some old parking lots hold my whimpering thoughts, and I'm on the next train. You and me, can't you see what this means? In the light of a torch, realize nothing is forced, nothing is forced.
Hi, my name is Andrew Phillips,
And I'm Amy Phillips.
and today we're going to be talking about our adventure on a road trip that we took about, how many years? 5 years ago?
Yep, about 5 years ago.
So we took a 4-week trip out west after my first year as a school counselor, and Amy had been teaching for a few years. And we decided just to kind of drop everything and go. So Amy's a great planner, and we just decided to go off on our adventure. So we drove all the way to California by kind of a southern route, and then came back a different route so we could see as much as we could possibly see. Along the way, we had sort of two main adventures that stood out to us that we wanted to share today.
The first one I always get a kick out of. We were driving to Chaco Canyon National Historic Park, and it's this really remote location of old Native American dwellings. And in order to get there, you have to drive a really long road that's just a dirt road, like 40 or 50 miles just on a dirt road. When we were driving out there, we passed a van.
Yeah, so we had just bought a new Subaru the year before that, so we were all ready to go off-road, and it's really remote. So while we were on our way, we passed only one car, and it was this big old van from probably the 90s, and I was kind of chuckling to myself because I thought, yeah, we're going to get there about an hour and a half before these folks. So we're cruising along, and it was really rough, not just dirt. It was a lot of jagged stone, and of course, because of our cockiness, we blew a tire.
And I thought it was hilarious just because it was such an adventure, but Andrew did not think it was quite so funny. I think the practical side of him was thinking about all the worries and the things that could happen because we were in the middle of nowhere with a flat tire.
I didn't know how to change a tire, so it was fair to be frustrated.
We figured it out. We got the manual out. You read it. So anyway, we had to stop in the middle of this long dirt road, and we had to take everything out of our trunk because we had everything with us for our whole trip, and we had to put it on the side of the road. And I had to take pictures because, again, I thought it was hilarious. And I just remember tumbleweeds literally blowing past us on this road. It was only us and the tumbleweeds and all of our stuff out on the side of the road.
It was like a Roadrunner cartoon. I didn't know tumbleweeds really would roll past you like that.
They do. And then the van that we had passed earlier and thought that we were in such better shape than actually passed us, asked us if we needed help, and we said no, and that was literally the only car we saw the entire time we were there. Eventually, though, Andrew figured out how to put the donut tire on the car, and we made it to the park, and the ruins were just amazing and beautiful. It was just so neat to be in this place with it was actual historic things that we were seeing and ruins.
So we had kind of hoped there'd be a different way out of the park, even if in the long run it would take longer, because we didn't want to drive on a donut back that huge, 40 or so mile dirt road. So we asked the rangers at the park what the best way out would be, and they said the only way out was the way we came, and that there was an Indian reservation soon after you got out of the park. So we drove really, really slowly, probably about 5 or 10 miles an hour the whole way out, and then they gave us directions to the Indian reservation. So we found it, and there was one gas station. So we pulled up to the gas station, and they didn't provide tire service, so they directed me to Willie's Tires. And Amy and I, we found it, and it was a sheet metal shack with just piles of used tires, and it was spray painted. Willie's was spray painted on it. So Amy was really excited about it.
I was terrified. I was yelling, "No, don't go in there. Don't you dare go in there." I just thought we were going to get murdered or something.
Yeah. So I got out of the car, and then I heard some more protesting about our safety. So we ended up getting back in the car, and we probably drove another 60 miles on the donut until we found a Firestone, and we finally got that taken care of. So it was quite an adventure. It was a long day, but and it was stressful, but it ended up being one of our favorite memories from the trip.
And so that stands out in our mind. But we also had the good fortune of going to Yosemite National Park on the trip. And when we were there, it was just so beautiful. We took this big hike up to the top of Yosemite Falls. It was a really challenging hike, like 7.5 miles straight up to this gorgeous view. We weren't in the best of shape, and we were doing this hike, and this older man, maybe looked like he was like 70, was coming down, and I asked him how much further we had, and he said, "Oh, it's still a while longer." And I said, "Well, did you make it to the top?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "You guys might want to turn around, though. It's a really hard hike." And after he walked away, I looked at Andrew and I said, "There is no way we're turning around. If that man could do it, then we have to do it." And so we kept going, and we made it to the top, and it was some of the most unbelievable views I've ever seen. It looked fake. It was just so beautiful. But when we were leaving the park, on one of the days, we had hiked by these giant sequoia trees, and we were all alone in the middle of these gigantic trees, and it was just so pretty. And we were tired, and we were leaving the park, and our GPS took us out a different way to the campground we were staying at. And as we were driving, I was driving, which I didn't do much on the trip because Andrew did most of it. We were going down a really narrow, woodsy, unpopulated dirt road, and all of a sudden it dead-ended into this horror movie house, like in the
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Like the windows were all busted out of the house, and there was this really cool old 1950s pickup truck sitting out front that looked like the hood had been hit by a meteor.
Terrifying.
It was the context made it terrifying, but it was pretty cool. So we pull up to this house, and the road ended, and I mean it's our fault for following the GPS down another dirt road, but but it dead ended into this house. There was nowhere else to go, and so we thought, well, we need to turn around, but it was a narrow road, and all of these dogs came out from around the house and came up to the car and were barking at our doors and surrounding us. So
It was terrifying. I just remember Andrew yelling, back up, go, go, go. And I was not even comfortable backing up. That's not something I do very often, but I backed up, and we almost went over this ravine, and I was just terrified, but I was going as fast as we could, and we sped out of there. I was just so sure that we were going to die. But Andrew, we made it. As soon as we were safe, I made Andrew take over because I was like, I can't drive anymore. I was so shaken, but we made it, and now we have this great memory from the trip. But those were some standout memories. But along with that, we also had some really just great, amazing times. We drove up the Pacific Coast Highway, stopping for overlooks. And
yeah, probably the most beautiful drive we've ever taken. I would definitely go back there, and anybody who ever has a chance, I would say you should definitely take that drive up Pacific Coast Highway 1, which took us to Carmel, which is just this really cool, insanely expensive town to live in, but it doesn't feel pretentious. It's just, there are no street lights. It's, it's just kept really natural, lots of cool little shops and interesting people. So that was another one of our highlights.
We also went to Death Valley National Park, which I was thinking, how cool could that be? It's just a bunch of sand, but it was amazing. I just remember we stayed at this place that kind of looked like a rundown, dude ranch. I don't know how to describe it, kind of. Had skulls on the walls and stuff. But it was owned by the national park, and it was really cool. But they had a swimming pool outside, and we swam in it at night in the dark in the middle of the desert. And there were bats flying overhead, and you could just feel the desert breeze, and it was just amazing.
Another really cool place was El Mal Pais. It's this park there was nobody else there. A lot of these places out west, it was just kind of me and Amy hiking around. But there's old volcanic rock, and there were lava tubes, and it was amazing. I don't remember how old the lava had been, but it all looked the same. So you had to follow cairns to make sure you didn't get lost, and the lava just sounded like glass when you would kick the stones, and it was a really cool experience.
One of the other places we went, it was maybe one of the last places on our trip, and there were so many more places we could talk about, but we went to Rocky Mountain National Park, and we went on this great hike in the mountains, and we ended up getting caught in a hailstorm. And again, as I tend to do when I think things maybe most people would be scared or think about the disastrous side of it, I just think it's funny. So I thought it was so much fun just to be stuck in this hailstorm. But after that hike, our boots were soaked, our clothes were soaked, our boots weren't drying out, and that was pretty much the last hike we took for the trip, just because everything was all wet, and after 4 weeks we were pretty tired. But it was just an amazing trip. I don't know if we'll ever take a road trip that will even come close to that again.
We haven't topped it yet, but we'll keep trying.
But yeah, thanks for letting us share our road trip stories.
Nursery Podcast is sponsored by the Orange Avocado, Timeless Shots Photography, Eli Funk Records, Juche, Third Class, and Bullskit Productions. Do you like to laugh? Yeah, me too. Check it out at bullskit.com. You're listening to Ohio's creative voice, Nursery Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Hey guys, it's Lee Boyle, your host of Nursery Podcast. I appreciate you guys listening. Since 2015 in January, we've been doing this show. It is now November 2016. Thanks for listening. Some of you loyal listeners might have noticed that recently, during the time of this podcast, late 2016, we've slowed down just a little bit. We started doing some wild stuff where we'd upload like 4 or 5 podcasts every week or two. And that slowed down significantly because the house band of Nursery, Third Class, my band, is recording a 20-song album, Virginia's Playlist. We're doing that at a place called Historian Recording Company. That's done. The album is mixed, and it is being mastered at Cauliflower Audio in Lakewood, Ohio. We're probably going to see what we can do about doing vinyl records, probably like a very short run of CDs and digital distribution. It's going to cost a ton of money. We are not going to do a crowdfunding thing. If you are a longtime fan, you might have remembered Third Class doing crowdfunding for a 6-song EP in 2011 called 12 and 9 EP. We did it then, and it seemed to go well. But it seems too soon to ask again, let alone that a lot of time when I see crowdfunding, it's for stuff that matters so much more than this. You listen to me prattle on about my band on this stupid podcast, and then you realize, man, there's those crowdfunding things for somebody whose dad is having surgery. There's somebody whose grandma needs to be, important stuff. Stuff that's more important than music. And a lot of bands have done it. A band that I champion on this podcast, sometimes the Presidents of the United States of America, started in the early 90s. They did it in 2013 or something for a 2014 album. And I don't think it's bad. I don't know. I'd rather just ask you to maybe go to thirdclass.net, the website, and donate if you feel like it. There's donate buttons on the homepage there. And that's totally cool, man. No, not too many people around here have that kind of money, and I'm looking into trying to get grants to try to help the band fund what's to come, like tours from the album, or possibly maybe awards in the arts that recognize the work we've done, things like that. But by no means is this as important as a lot of crowdfunding. So this is not a call to arms to do some huge amount of legwork for us. You've already done enough. You're listening to this podcast and paying attention, and usually buying albums when they come out, and a t-shirt here and there. And I love you guys for listening. The most I can ask you to do is maybe you can do something that I can help you with. Maybe you can sponsor an episode of Nursery, You can write to us at thirdclass11@aol.com or cloegrave@gmail.com. That's CHLOEGRAVE@gmail.com. It sounds like Chloe Grave at gmail.com, but I'm cooler than you and I don't pronounce the E. I must think I'm French, but no one says aloe, now do they? Well, I know everything's dead. Just don't argue with me. It's cloegrave@gmail.com. You've been listening to Nursery. If you don't know what this is, if this is your first time and you just found us, it's an Ohio thing. If you're not from here, turn it off. I'm just kidding. Please don't go. Please, God. No, it's just a thing about Midwestern creative types. It can be translated to lots of places all over the world. So if you ever want to listen to the backlog, you can find it on thirdclass.net or bullskit.com. There's a lot of episodes. There's like 100 episodes that you can go back to starting January 2015. So go check that out. When I did talk about sponsors there, I'd love, if you were a sponsor, it would really help us out because that money goes to the band or whatever facets we're working with right now. It'll go into helping us do the album Virginia's playlist. But we do have a couple small sponsors right now. So we're sponsored by the Orange Avocado. Orange Avocado, that's a juicery in Boardman, Ohio at 1393 Boardman Canfield Road, Boardman, Ohio. That's Tippecanoe and 224 intersection. You'll find it. It's near Branch Street Coffee and the Susie's Dogs and Drafts in that plaza there. And the juice is awesome. I work there. I work 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. If you want to come say hi to me, again, my name is Lee for new listeners, Lee Boyle, and I'll have you try some juice and see what you like. Maybe you like stuff with beets in it. Maybe you like stuff with oranges. Maybe you like stuff with kale. There's a lot of options there that kind of rotate in as recipes become available based on the produce shipments and what we sell. And it's really cool. Smoothies, oatmeal, salad, shots, little shots, boost shots that have ginger in them, things like that. Wheatgrass. Come by and visit Orange Avocado. Another sponsor is the Jimmy Fro Indie Music Show. If you haven't found this, go on your iTunes thing or go online and find Jimmy Fro Show or sometimes known as Jimmy Fro Indie Music Show. You'll hear interviews with bands like my band Third Class, bands like local Sam Goodwill, who runs Historian Recording Company, where we have recorded this last album. Lots of others. He has an interview with somebody from Grog Shop in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. Really cool stuff. Jimmy Fro Indie Music Show. Check that out. It's based out of Warren, Ohio. The last sponsor is a newer sponsor, Timeless Shots Photography. They've sponsored us before, and they're back. And they're back because they're amazing. They take photos of our band, but they do like wedding stuff. His name's Brandon. He does any kind of occasion, and he specializes in like unique photography. You know, I'm not talking too artsy for you to understand. I'm just talking about this guy's got an eye. You know, he's gonna get your kid to smile in a family portrait. He's gonna make you look good if you're doing something promotionally for yourself, and he's gonna make you remember your occasion if you're having him do, say, a wedding or maybe anniversary or maybe a Christmas card even. Like, it's endless. Yeah, timelessshots.com. That's Timeless Shots Photography. And then shout outs. I just want to give a couple shout outs real quick. There is a podcast called The Makeshift. Go find it. Find it on various platforms. Makeshift. This is great. It's based on the Makeshift Poets, who are a group of people based roughly in the Warren, Ohio area, and they meet first Tuesday of every month at Havana House in Niles, Ohio, and they exchange poetry. They read each other's stuff out loud. They help each other out with poetry. I've never been to it myself. I've got to get out to it, man. But I've connected with this group because, of course, we're going to bump into each other in Ohio. That's what this whole podcast is about, creatives in Northeast Ohio and beyond, anywhere you want, really. But, you know, we're using this as a platform because we're here. Yeah, you know, it's that small town thing. It's those kids that always wanted to be rock stars and lived in a little town, or it's maybe this person who always wanted to paint, ends up just painting houses, but wants to be one of those artistes. It's those kind of people, you know. Sometimes there's an ego to it. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes it's more like what this podcast is, where it's like you're just trying to get someone to have a better day. I'm one of those people that kind of believes in the sad song thing. Like, if you're really sad and then you listen to a sad song, it makes you feel better because the song relates with you. Some people have that don't worry, be happy thing happening, and I get it. Sometimes that works. I'm not discrediting it, but this is more about when you're on a certain level. Maybe Nursery works for you when you're feeling not necessarily down, but if you're just kind of like having a day where you're like, oh, there's some doubts in your mind and stuff like that. Nursery is good for those days because we have those same doubts here on the show. So you'll listen to us, you'll hear us doubting ourselves, or maybe facing certain dichotomies that come with making music in Ohio. And maybe you'll feel better because you feel like, man, somebody else is on the same playing field as me. So that's what we're here for. We hope you enjoy it. Again, thirdclass.net and bullskit.com are the sites you want to go to. Please keep an eye out. Early 2017, the release of Third Class's new album, 20-song album, Virginia's Playlist. Check out the hashtag Virginia's Playlist, all one word. Especially Instagram, Twitter, you can see some updates of how we recorded it. A lot of it is just my own solo stuff being, emphasized and highlighted by the guys in the band, and a lot of surprise friends that are going to be on the album. We have friends who have been on the podcast who are appearing on Virginia's Playlist. To name a few, Erin Kane, who has been on this show before, her boyfriend Joe Diamato, she does clarinet, he does guitar. It's gorgeous. Some music we played way back, Dog OK, is going to be on the album, just doing a little tiny bit of synth work. Who else? Well, Jim Martin himself, the guy from the Jimmy Fro Indie Music Show, does a little bit of light guitar work on a song. That's just to name a few. Oh, the Automatons and Floor Baba, two people who have appeared on this podcast. Floor Baba, you gotta check out some of that stuff. Floor Baba is like an electronic artist. You wouldn't know it was him to hear him on our album because he does this gorgeous Radiohead-esque fake string scoring to one of our tracks. So you gotta hear. I mean, I'm talking a lot about it, something that's not out yet, but it will be out soon, and you gotta stay tuned because this year we're probably gonna have time for some music videos and singles to kind of tease you into the album. So that's that's the main point of this presentation on the podcast today is just to talk about the album to come. The new album. Keep an eye out, thirdclass.net, bullskit.com, and thanks for listening to Nursery, a a podcast from Ohio's Creative Voice. Look, Mom, we're on a podcast.